When you hold a grudge, your brain processes it like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Neuroscience proves that revenge thoughts hijack your pain centers, raise your blood pressure, and literally shorten your lifespan. And you're doing this to yourself.
Right now, there's someone you haven't forgiven. Maybe they betrayed you, disrespected you, hurt you in a way that still stings years later. And every time you think about them, your body floods with stress hormones, your heart rate spikes, your blood pressure rises, and your nervous system goes into fight or flight mode. Research shows that when people rehearse grudges or think about revenge, their facial muscles tense, their heart rate increases significantly, and their blood pressure spikes even during recovery periods after the thoughts end. You're not hurting them by holding on to this anger, you're destroying yourself from the inside out. Psychology studies confirm that chronic grudge holding leads to depression, anxiety, weakened immune system, sleep disturbances, and cardiovascular disease. But here's what's fascinating. Forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from a neurological trap that's hijacking your health and happiness. Welcome to Prime Theory, where we expose the psychology that's sabotaging your life. Today I'm breaking down the neuroscience of why grudges are poison, how revenge thoughts hijack your brain's stress response, and why forgiveness is the most powerful act of self-preservation you can practice. This isn't about being weak or letting people walk over you. This is about understanding that holding on to anger is like gripping a hot coal intending to throw it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned. Let's decode it. Welcome to Prime Theory, where we expose the psychology that's sabotaging your life. Today, I'm breaking down the neuroscience of why grudges are poison, how revenge thoughts hijack your brain's stress response, and why forgiveness is the most powerful act of self-preservation you can practice. This isn't about being weak or letting people walk over you. This is about understanding that holding on to anger is like gripping a hot coal, intending to throw it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned. Let's decode it. Part 1. The Neuroscience of Grudges. Let's start with what's actually happening in your brain when you hold a grudge. Psychologists define a grudge as unresolved anger paired with unwillingness to forgive. And unlike healthy anger that motivates you to set boundaries or seek resolution, grudges keep you trapped in the past, replaying events over and over without closure. When you rehearse revenge fantasies or ruminate on how someone wronged you, your amygdala, your brain's alarm system, floods your system with stress hormones, effectively shutting down your prefrontal cortex where rational thinking occurs. You're literally functioning on survival instincts, not higher reasoning. Research measuring physiological responses found that when participants imagined unforgiving scenarios toward people who hurt them, they experienced significantly higher corrugator muscle tension in their brow, elevated skin conductance, increased heart rate, and raised blood pressure compared to baseline. Even more troubling, these effects persisted during recovery periods after the imagery ended, meaning your body stays in stress mode long after you stop consciously thinking about the grudge. This is chronic activation of your stress response system, and over time it wreaks havoc on your health. Studies show that people who chronically hold grudges have measurably higher blood pressure, weakened immune responses, making them more vulnerable to infections and disease, disrupted sleep patterns often leading to insomnia, and increased risk of cardiovascular problems. Your brain treats the grudge like an ongoing threat, keeping your nervous system in a state of hypervigilance that was designed for escaping predators, not replaying arguments from 3 years ago. The person who hurt you has moved on with their life while you're still physiologically reliving the trauma every time you think about them. You're volunteering for suffering they're not even aware of anymore. Part 2. The Revenge Trap. Now let's talk about revenge, because revenge thoughts are how grudges manifest behaviorally. Research on cognitive systems for revenge shows that humans evolved revenge mechanisms as deterrents, the idea being that if you retaliate against someone who harms you, they'll be less likely to harm you again, and others who observe will be less likely to target you. In ancestral environments where reputation mattered for survival, revenge had adaptive value. But in modern society, where you're not fighting for scarce resources with your tribe, revenge becomes psychologically toxic. Here's the trap your brain falls into. When you fantasize about revenge or plot ways to hurt someone who hurt you, your brain anticipates satisfaction. You imagine the moment they realize what you've done, how they'll suffer, how justice will be served, and that anticipation releases dopamine. Your brain rewards you for thinking about revenge, which reinforces the thought pattern. But research consistently shows that when people actually enact revenge, the satisfaction is minimal and short-lived, often followed by guilt, regret, or escalation that makes everything worse. The fantasy feels better than the reality, but your brain keeps chasing the dopamine hit from the fantasy, trapping you in a cycle of rumination. Studies on intergenerational trauma demonstrate that unresolved conflicts and cycles of retaliation produce lasting psychological effects, not just on you, but on future generations. Children who witness acts of retaliation, whether it's parents in bitter custody fights or family members experiencing ongoing conflict, develop heightened stress responses and are more likely to adopt revenge-oriented coping strategies themselves. You're not just poisoning yourself, you're potentially programming the next generation with dysfunctional conflict resolution patterns. The grudge you think you're justified in holding might be the blueprint your kids use to navigate their own relationships, and the cycle perpetuates. So if grudges are so destructive, why do we hold them? There are several psychological reasons. First, grudges provide a sense of control in situations where you felt powerless. Someone hurt you and you couldn't stop it, but by holding on to anger and refusing to forgive, you maintain psychological leverage. You're saying, I may not be able to change what happened, but I can control how I respond, and I choose not to let you off the hook. This feels empowering in the short term, but it's an illusion. The person you're refusing to forgive probably isn't thinking about you at all, so your refusal to forgive only affects you. Second, grudges protect your ego from vulnerability. If you forgive someone who hurt you, there's a fear that you're admitting what they did was okay, or that you're weak for letting it go. But psychologists make clear that forgiveness doesn't mean condoning the behavior or pretending it didn't happen. It means releasing the emotional charge around it, so it stops controlling your present. Refusing to forgive is often ego protection disguised as principle. You're more invested in being right about how wronged you were than in being free from the suffering. Third, grudges can become part of your identity. If you've been wronged significantly, especially by someone you trusted, the story of that betrayal can become a core narrative in how you see yourself. I'm someone who was betrayed by my best friend. I'm someone whose parent abandoned them. I'm someone who was cheated on. These stories shape identity, and letting go of the grudge means letting go of that narrative, which can feel destabilizing. Who are you if you're not the person who was wronged? This is why some people unconsciously cling to grudges for years. The pain is familiar, and the identity is established, even if it's miserable. Fourth, there's a cultural component. Research shows that endorsement of street code of conduct, mistrust in authority systems, and cultural values around honor and reputation all influence propensity for revenge and grudge holding. In environments where reputation is tied to willingness to retaliate, forgiveness is seen as weakness. But in modern contexts where most people aren't navigating street codes, this cultural programming becomes maladaptive. You're applying survival strategies from environments that don't match your current reality. Let's break down exactly what chronic grudge holding costs you beyond just physical health. First, it destroys your mental health. Studies consistently link unforgiveness to higher rates of depression, anxiety, and obsessive thought patterns. When you hold a grudge, you're engaging in rumination, replaying the offense over and over, which is one of the strongest predictors of depressive episodes. You're essentially training your brain to focus on past hurts rather than present possibilities, and over time, this creates a pessimistic, cynical worldview where you expect betrayal and hurt from everyone. Second, it damages all your relationships, not just the one with the person you won't forgive. When you carry unresolved anger, it leaks into other interactions. You become defensive, mistrustful, quick to perceive slights where none were intended. People who hold grudges often develop what psychologists call a victim identity, where they see themselves as perpetually wronged, which makes authentic connection impossible because every relationship is filtered through suspicion. Partners, friends, colleagues all feel the emotional walls you've built, and they either exhaust themselves trying to prove they're trustworthy, or they give up and leave, reinforcing your belief that people can't be trusted. Third, grudges keep you trapped in the past, which steals your future. Every moment you spend replaying how you were wronged is a moment you're not building something new. Research on forgiveness and psychological health shows that people who practice forgiveness report significantly better mental health, stronger relationships, and greater life satisfaction than those stuck in revenge cycles. The irony is brutal. By refusing to forgive to punish them, you're punishing yourself with a life sentence of bitterness while they're out living freely. You think you're maintaining power by holding the grudge, but you've actually given them power over your emotional state years after the offense occurred. Fourth, grudges distort your perception of reality. When you're fixated on being wronged, you start interpreting neutral or even positive interactions through a lens of suspicion and hostility. Someone doesn't text back immediately, you assume disrespect. Someone disagrees with you, you interpret it as an attack. Your brain becomes hypervigilant for signs of betrayal, which means you find them whether they exist or not. This creates self-fulfilling prophecies, where your expectation of being hurt leads you to behave in ways that push people away, which then confirms your belief that people are untrustworthy. You're trapped in a reality distortion field of your own creation. Now let's talk about what forgiveness actually is, because most people misunderstand it. Forgiveness is not excusing bad behavior, saying what happened was okay, or reconciling with someone who harmed you. Psychologists define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards someone who harmed you, regardless of whether they deserve your forgiveness. It's an internal process that benefits you, not a gift you give them. Research on forgiveness therapy shows measurable improvements. People who receive forgiveness-based interventions experience greater reductions in depression and anxiety compared to those who don't. Forgiveness protects mental health by breaking the rumination cycle that fuels negative emotions. When you forgive, you're not forgetting or minimizing what happened. You're choosing to stop letting it define your present emotional state. The event stays in the past, where it belongs, instead of being dragged into every present moment. Forgiveness improves physical health dramatically. Studies measuring physiological responses found that when people practiced forgiving thoughts toward those who hurt them, they experienced lower blood pressure, reduced heart rate, decreased muscle tension, and lower skin conductance compared to when they rehearsed grudges. The stress response calmed, which over time means reduced risk of heart disease, better immune function, and improved overall health. You're literally choosing between physiological poison and physiological peace. Forgiveness also sustains relationships. Research shows that when friends or partners inevitably hurt or disappoint each other, the ability to forgive predicts relationship longevity and satisfaction. Holding grudges makes you less likely to cooperate, sacrifice, or trust, which drives people away. But people who can forgive maintain deeper, more resilient relationships because they understand that imperfection is human and disconnection over every mistake is exhausting. The paradox is that forgiveness makes you stronger, not weaker. It requires more psychological strength to release anger than to cling to it, because releasing it means confronting vulnerability and choosing peace over the illusion of control. All right, let's talk about how to actually practice forgiveness, because knowing it's beneficial doesn't make it easy. Step 1. Acknowledge the full extent of the hurt. Don't minimize or pretend it didn't matter. Write down exactly what happened, how it affected you, what you lost because of it. Forgiveness doesn't start with bypassing pain, it starts with fully feeling and acknowledging it. You're not dismissing the offense, you're giving yourself permission to grieve what was taken from you. Step 2. Separate the person from the action. This is crucial. Someone can do something terrible without being irredeemably terrible. Recognize that hurt people, that everyone is operating from their own wounds and limitations. This doesn't excuse the behavior, but it humanizes the person, which makes forgiveness possible. When you see someone as purely evil or intentionally malicious, forgiveness feels impossible. When you see them as flawed and wounded like everyone else, it becomes an option. Step 3. Practice perspective taking. Try to understand what led them to act that way. Were they in pain? Were they scared? Were they repeating patterns from their own trauma? This isn't about justifying their actions, it's about recognizing that behavior comes from somewhere. Research shows that empathy and perspective taking significantly increase willingness to forgive because they break the dehumanization that grudges require. You can't hold a grudge against someone you fully see as human. Step 4. Make forgiveness a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Forgiveness isn't something you do once and it's done. It's something you choose repeatedly, especially early on when the memories and anger resurface. When you catch yourself ruminating on revenge or replaying the hurt, consciously redirect your thoughts. This is like training a muscle. It gets easier with repetition, but requires consistent effort initially. Step 5. Understand that forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. You can forgive someone and never speak to them again. You can forgive and maintain firm boundaries that prevent them from hurting you again. Forgiveness is for your internal peace. Reconciliation is a separate decision about whether the relationship is safe and valuable to restore. Some relationships need to end, but you can still forgive to free yourself from carrying that emotional weight. Here's the truth. Every moment you spend holding a grudge is a moment you're choosing suffering. The person you won't forgive isn't losing sleep over it. They've moved on, but you're replaying it daily, flooding your body with stress hormones, damaging your health, and limiting your capacity for joy. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the strongest psychological move you can make because it means you're prioritizing your peace over your pride. It means you understand that carrying anger is a choice, and you're choosing differently. This is prime theory. We give you the psychology that frees you from patterns that keep you stuck. Subscribe for weekly breakdowns of how your brain works and how to make it work for you instead of against you. Holding grudges is drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. Stop poisoning yourself. Forgive them not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. I'll see you in the next one.